Hello world, it's JWP, JWP Primo Beats, coming to you live from my bedroom. Check me out on YouTube, youtube.com, at JWPTube, Twitch, JWP stream, Patreon, JWP Patreon, and there's one more place, but I can't remember it. Facebook, JWP Meta. So I will be getting into a concept I prefer to use for arranging modules and patches, and it keeps things cleaner. And it also, in my opinion, helps contribute to efficiency as far as computer CPU load, as SynthEdit does use a graphics card. It does use the graphics card, the GPU, to generate its visuals. So I'm going to flip over to SynthEdit. And this is a fresh project. So this is a bit of a concept project. I will be looking at Pylons and Anchors, and I'll explain what those are in a moment. This is a novice tutorial. The focus is the Pylons and Anchors. However, I'm going to be looking at some intermediate and possibly advanced topics. Intermediate, advanced, veteran, expert topics. So competent and expert. I keep mixing up all the terms. I prefer novice, competent, and expert, as intermediate and advanced aren't part of novice. I guess intermediate, advanced would be beginner, intermediate, advanced. Anyway, my terminology is novice, competent, expert. All right. So this is going to be an EQ, just a quick EQ project. I'm not sure how far I'm going to take it. The general idea here is to get a clean and tidy layout. So I'm going to call this SE Butterworth EQ. And I'm going to save that. So I'm going to grab this. Control, file, save as, and right on my desktop. So I'm just going to Control V, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to hop in, and I've already tested some things. So before I get into Anchors and Pylons, I'm going to explain the project a bit. I'm hoping the stream won't be too long, but it might be. I mean, this is going to be maybe 2 hours. And that won't even complete the complexity of a EQ system. However, that said, going into filters here, I have migrated the 1.5 filters into 1.4. Like I said, it's an advanced topic or an expert topic or a competent topic. Competent, I'd say, migrating the filters from SE5 into, or SE 1.5 into SE 1.4. I guess I can go over it real quick. Maybe I'll make it a, what are they called? On YouTube, they're little reels or whatever. The quickies, the shorts. That's what they're called, right? Shorts. It'll be my first short. So I got to do it in under a minute. I'm not even sure that's going to be possible. So we'll try it out. So this is how we get the Butterworth filters from 1.5 into 1.4. So we head over to our C drive, into program files, and we head down to SynthEdit 1.5, make sure that's installed. It takes a little while to get it to run. It's going to dig through all your stuff if you try to start it. Anyway, from this location, we grab filters, we copy, and we head back over to 1.4. I'm just going to drop these right on top here. And I got to allow using the administrator privilege. I have a folder called backup. So I already made that, and what I did was I took the old filters and dropped them in there as a backup. And what I want to do now is grab this file, the filters I took from 1.5, throw them in modules. So I cut that and paste, and it's going to overwrite. However, SynthEdit's still open, so it's not going to let me. And that's how you get the 1.5 filters into 1.4. So with that said, I'm not sure if I did that in under a minute. With that said, we now have a layout of 2. We got 2. And these are cleaner filters, apparently. So, panel edit. Let's start with a background. So generally, I just like to throw a rectangle down and trim the corners. And we'll go with, let's go with a yellow. I don't even know how to make yellow. Red, green, blue. Red, green, blue. Let's try 777700. Is that yellow? I don't know what that is. Like green? Maybe 007777. Nope. And then one more time. 770077. What's that? Whatever that is, I'm going with that. So then we'll go 330033. And we should have some banding. It's not the greatest look, but I don't even know what color it is. Brown? Red? Purple? Purple? Maybe not purple. Let's just go with red. Dark red. Alright. So I'm just going to throw that out of the way for now, as we're going to be doing some building there. I'm just going to use default controls. I'll make one real quick, I guess. It's too bad I don't have one. Maybe I do pre-built. Right? There's the knob. Right? But I thought I had one pre-built. And they call it Matrix or something. Okay, I'm going to grab some controls from one of my other projects. So I'm going to go to the top layer, insert prefab, and then I'm going to head deep into my computer to look for this guy, I think. 2, 1, both 1. This was open. Lots of errors. Okay, so that didn't work very well. But that's beside the point. All I want from this project, complete those, is these controls. And we can see that there's some anchoring systems happening here. I'm just going to grab all this stuff. Actually, I only need 1, so I'm going to grab frequency, or 2. And actually, we'll grab this as well. This is my impulse system. So, I'll grab all that, and we're going to toss it in here. Bring it down some. Kind of get it all in one screen. Oh, I'm already as high as I can go, so I gotta drop it down more. And it kind of... Okay. So I have a list one, a list reader, and a frequency reader. I'm gonna need more, but I'll just copy the frequency a few times. So to start out, let's have one band. And now that I got controls, I'm gonna bring in the filters, right? So such as it is, there's all the different kinds. So we got a low pass, band reject, band shelf, high pass. Just organizing these a little bit. So we'll start with low pass, and we'll go high pass. We'll stick band pass in the middle, low pass, band pass, high pass. And I don't have to do any serial stuff because there's already 12 poles, and that's quite enough. And we'll do band reject, and we'll go low shelf, high shelf, or band shelf, low shelf, high shelf. So that's the order that they'll come out in when selecting them. Okay, and we'll move these controls out of the way. Everything's messy right now. So let me get this rectangle out of the way just for now. Generally, I like to put my GUI sort of off to the left here. However, I'm going to have to make more room as I go. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty much done because I don't have to do things in serial, which is, I mean, such a time saver. And that would be, say if I wanted, you know, it goes up to 12. But if I wanted to to do it manually, I could, link them up like this. And then I'd have one above it, sort of thing. Like that. And this would be one, and this would be 2 poles. And these are both 1 pole, and then we'd use a flow control, 1 to many, and would say this is 1 pole, and then it's 2 poles. Alright, so go on. 1 pole. Oops. And 2 pole. And then when we'd select our control here, we'd have a readout of 1 pole or 2 pole. And the input would go to either. However, because the Butterworth has its own built-in system up to 24, I don't need to put things in serial like that. I just need to send this guy to that one. But if I do that like this, and I have a whole bunch of things like it gets kind of, that's hard on the graphics card, and it just doesn't look very good. It gets disorganized. It looks like a giant web made by a sort of special needs spider. So, in order to get things cleaner, there's a couple more steps. However, it's very much so worth it. So I'm going to bring in a container, just an empty container, and I'm going to take the value out from the poles, or this should be called poles. I'll call that poles. From over here, I just clicked it, and then over here I can change the value, and that updates over there. And then I'm going to hold shift and double click, head in here, drag down the IO mod, bring in another IO mod, and then I'm just going to connect it. So it's pretty much just a through. It's a null container. And it does impact SynthEdit a little bit in the end, like as far as the build goes, but I don't think it's very impactful, and maybe it adds a couple bytes to the build, or it slows it down by like, 0.00001%. But if not, it probably doesn't even do anything. I'm not sure. I've never done tests as far as, building 100 pylons before an anchor. So this is what I call a pylon. It's just a middle guy, the middleman kind of thing. And then an anchor is the guy that, is there before. And in this pylon anchor concept, right angles are the best. I prefer right angles, so everything right angles. I mean, it's been years where I've been, using anchors or whatever, and then you have an anchor way over there, and you still get like this webbing effect. So I find right angles are best. So I'm just going to take one more copy here and paste, and then this is the anchor here. So this is the final, by anchor I mean the final stop. So I'm going to connect to all the poles. I can drag it around freely for now, and of course it's going to give that web effect. Yeah, we have this sort of webbing effect. However, if we move it to a perfect right angle lined up with all the modules, they all disappear. And of course we can't see if it's connected. However, we can just grab that anchor and we can move it around and see. And with everything all organized in right angles and stuff, and lots of patches hidden, it makes it so much easier to find things. So our input switch, we actually need 2 because we need a left and right. So we're going to go 2. This rectangle's in the way. I'm just going to move it out of the way. And we're going to bring in a second input to the switch here. And we're going to label the inputs as left and right, so L and R. And if I push shift, I go somewhere. I'm not even sure where I go, but if I hold shift, if I push tab rather, I go somewhere. I don't know where I go, but it should move down to the next box. It doesn't. In order to get back to the next box, I hold shift tab and I'm up here, and I can move up and down with my arrows, and then tab again to get into there. Hold shift, push home, and go R. Or select or control A, and then I highlight all of the text, and again R. So L and R, that's just a sort of keyboard shortcut to rename things faster. And it's not going to update, so even if I hit enter. What has to happen is something has to change in the workspace in order for that to update. So I'm just going to throw container down, and you see that updates. However, it's not that big of a deal. You can throw your container down if you're moving on somewhere else, and you want to make sure that things are labeled properly. However, for now, it's not that big of a deal. As far as spacing goes, I'm not sure if I want to have, one left and one right. Maybe we'll do that. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. So we're going to bring in another IO mod, and this will be our right IO mod. And we're just going to name that again, right. And we're going to pull it down. Let's get this, that doesn't have to move. I'm going to copy everything here. And this is another one of the benefits of using anchors and pylons, is that we have this anchor attached to all of these. Now I have to copy all of these from my left channel, my right channel. And how's my microphone? Microphone? It's good, okay. And it looks like the right screen is showing. Hopefully I'm not just talking to the wall. So Control C and Control V. Now, when it's pasted, everything is already connected. I don't have to reconnect all these again. And then what I do is I just bring it down here. This will be my left channel, right channel, left channel, right channel. And I just need to bring in a couple more pylons here. So I'm going to grab this pylon. Oops. And we're going to right angle. They're not compatible. It's fine. It just needs to update here. So let's try like this and like that there. It's just because the value that's here is like a 0 and it needs the 12 from the pods, from the poles. So again, right angle. This is good enough. I mean, it's not perfectly straight, but that's fine. As long as it looks like this sort of thing. And then the arrows like that. And now we have our right here. Let's get this control out of the way. And we want to keep it on a right angle, right? So it kind of overlaps everything. These guys are kind of in the way. These will come in handy later. Frequency, we'll keep that here for now. And then we'll bring in our right channel. Oops. So it looks like it's going to get a little bit overdone. For the switches, I prefer to kind of not have anchors and pylons, maybe to get to the switch, but as far as it goes, I like them sitting like on top, and then they kind of web out, just because there's no point. So I'm gonna actually have to bring in a container, and we're gonna connect that L, hop in there, and IO mod. Again, I'm in the new view by holding Shift and double clicking. I'm just gonna line it up. And now I have an L, so it's holding on to this. I'm gonna delete that, and we'll make a couple of these just to keep our right angles. And then that will go here. So that's our left input. And I'm gonna put that, and try to keep it in line with the order of these guys. So that, I'm gonna grab everything by Control A and then bring it down, get some space. And then we're gonna throw this up here. Again, right angles, and throw that there. However, I need to still connect them. So the choice selection here is which type of EQ or filter we're going to use. And I have them in the order, right? So low pass, band pass, high pass, band reject, low shelf, band shelf, and high shelf. And now I got to go in and label them. So we got that web effect, right? So, but if we snap it into like a direct right angle and bring it up, it all disappears. Of course, it's a little too tall, so I'm going to Control A, bring it down a bit, and bring it up a little bit just so the container is visible, the label there. And it looks so much cleaner. It looks like this is extra. However, I'm going to keep it in case we need to do more wiggling, which we will likely have to. And I'm going to label these right quick here. So this is low pass. I hate to abbreviate things, so we'll just, we'll make space. Low pass, band, pass, high pass, And this is band reject. Low shelf. Band shelf. And what is this? High shelf. Alright, so now we need another list entry guy here. I believe it's like polls there. However, before I get to doing that, I'm going to check my microphone. I just constantly check my microphone because I've had the times where it pops and I'm having a bunch of dead air. Anyway, see, it hasn't updated, right? But it will update once something changes. Let's get this in line here with the right angle stuff. We want our lines to overlap. Okay. So I don't want to have to type that all in again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this line here. And we're going to wait until we bring in the next section because I'm going to have to connect, you know, the pitch and the width as well. So we'll just wait to do the right channel. I mean, it's there. It's primed. We're going to wait a bit. So yeah, it's updated, right? Because I deleted something. So next line is pitch. That is a regular, how would you say, float. It's been a while since I've been in SynthEdit. So that's a float value. I don't like using float values as far as the anchors go. So I'm actually going to create a standard volt anchor here. I'm just going to copy the left and in and out. And I'm going to throw that in front of the, this is, what is this? This is frequency, right? Pitch hertz, it's actually frequency. And I don't have to convert it because it's already accepting hertz value. And I'm going to throw that into there, and I'm just going to rename this L to frequency. If I can spell properly. Shift tab to go back, and I am up and down, no tab to go in. Oh, I don't know where I am. Okay, so frequency, enter. And I'm going to bring in another one. And I'm going to link those, and I want one more. So 2 pylons and an anchor. And then from there, I want to kind of keep that line. So I'm going to go up, all the way up, and we want to keep in the same order here. So pitch is actually before poles. So we're going to make some room here by, again, grabbing everything, Control A, moving everything down. And we're going to pull these top guys up. So that's like the top level of the hierarchy there. And frequency. I'm going to keep these right angles. I'm going to drop that right there. Of course, it's above poles. And width looks like it's above poles as well. So we're going to make like a bit of space there. And we're going to do the webbing sort of thing. Send that to pitch and pitch. As I usually state, this is all unrehearsed, unscripted. So I might just hit a brick wall. However, demonstrating the pylon anchor system is the main point here. As we see, we have a gain as well. And only some of them have, pitch and poles. The passes only have pitch and poles, and then the band pass has a width, but it has no gain. Only the shelves have gain. So we're gonna have controls that like appear and disappear. And I'm gonna have to do some advanced nesting and stuff controls on panel to make those controls disappear. And I might have to change some of these controls so they kind of look better. Maybe I'll just keep them knobs, right? Because I mean, the lines are a little annoying to deal with because they're not big enough, and they don't snap bar rather. It's not big enough and it doesn't snap properly. I mean, it's okay for like things like sequencers and stuff, but as far as being a EQ thing, maybe for the gain, I guess. Again, not really that great. And for expediency, we'll just stick to knobs. If I want to beautify it later, I'll beautify it later, but not right now. All right, so our next thing in line here, we have frequency and we have poles and we want width. So same thing, another, what even is this guy? This guy's nothing. So we'll make this width. And we'll just rename this width, we're at DTH. And we'll actually change the range here for frequency to from 20 to 20,000. And that should be good. And default value 400 is fine. We don't want to ignore program change. We don't want to make it private. So we need more anchors here. I'm going to copy this, or pylons rather. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to send that through, and we're just going to rename frequency here to width. WIDTH, Control A, Control C, and then Shift Tab to head back, push down, and we're into the next box. Tab, Shift End, Control V to paste width, Enter. And we have renamed that. Now we have renamed this rather. And then we're going to copy, right click, paste, and we're going to bring it in. And we also want another one. So 2 pylons and an anchor. And we're just going to grab both of these and head up, grab them and head up here. Stick them in the middle here. Keep that right angle. It's because we have 2 selected. It's going to mess with the grid. And we're going to bring this up 1 to give it some space to breathe. It's over here, and we're going to web it out. So only the ones with width. There's only so many, right? So width, and band reject, and band shelf. And that's it. So there's only those 3. And then we're going to slap it into the right angle. And I mean, look at how clean that is already. Opposed to something like this. And that bogs down the computer. And again, there's this, right? And if you don't have a GPU or a gaming computer graphics card, it's going to slow you down. And it's irritating to be trudging through SynthEdit trying to do something. So let's get everything back into the right angle here. Hide a lot of those things. And like I said, it's also easier to see, to do tracing. So if you feel like something's missing somewhere, you can just grab one and you can do your trace and everything's out of the way. You know, I got to make sure all your widths are connected, right? Those 3 widths. Do your trace. And the poles. This should actually say poles. I don't know why it doesn't say poles. That's one of the disadvantages of the anchor system is you got to name things a lot. I do. It's just the way I am. That's probably why I'm getting good at the shift tab and shift forward end stuff. But I'm going to quickly hop in here and rename things poles. You can also just use the mouse, right? So double click. Enter. Just going to make sure you hit enter, otherwise it doesn't update. And we'll toss a container in just to make sure they did update, which they did. And again, what is this? This is just an orphan. Yeah, we'll just delete that orphan. Paste it, paste, enter. And that should update. Let's throw a container down to update that. Delete that container. All right. I'm just going to check my stream on the little... Okay, looks like everything's running. All right. So we are at gain now. And I said I wanted to use a bar for that. However, as I said, for expediency, we're just going to stick to knobs. And that is another float value. So I'm going to grab width here. We'll copy and paste. As far as width goes, I guess the default values can be, say, 10 to 20,000, right? However, for this, I'm just going to do like 1,000, maximum 1,000 width. Because when we're scrolling here, there's no logarithmic response, so it's going to always, you know, be hard to get to these lower values. So we'll just leave it like that, and we'll have a default of 250. For now, I actually prefer frequency default of 1,000. 1,000? Yeah, 1,000. And width, this isn't width, this is gain. So we're gonna call this gain. And we're gonna rename this gain. And then we're gonna copy that a few times. Connect them. Connection. And then we're gonna grab them, we're gonna bring them up. Keeping the right angle, and that is on the bottom. Is it on the bottom? What is the order here? They are on the bottom. I mean, they're above poles, so let's bring poles down. I mean, it doesn't have to, but it's just me being me, I suppose. Bringing a bit of order. So we still gotta web it out, right? So we gotta have many? 3, right? Just the shelves. So gain, gain, and gain. And then we'll slap that in the right angle. Okay, these ones are off base a bit here. And yeah, so that's pretty much done. There is a few more things. How am I doing for time? Actually doing quite well. I expected this to take quite a while. I imagine it still will. There's still quite a ways to go. However, the baseline as it is so much easier. The Butterworth filters never used to be that good. The originals, they really like crack and pop, and when you'd move to the Nyquist either end, they'd snap, they'd kind of latch, and they'd crash, and they were hard on the ears, and they just weren't usable. But they've been smoothed out for 1.5, and as I shown in the beginning of the video, how to import them from 1.5 to 1.4, you do have to have 1.5 installed. Okay, so notice I have write. I'm going to continue building before I move on to write, because I know I'm going to have to update many things. So also we need our selector. So I'm just going to copy and paste this list guy here. And we're going to call this, what is this called? Type, I guess, type. And my stomach's not happy right now. I guess I did miss dinner time. That's fine. Call it type. And bring that all the way up. So this is like, it looks like it's underneath, like it is underneath. Or rather it's above the input, which it shouldn't be, because input's kind of the master, but because it is above, I'm just gonna put it above. And I forgot my pylons. So let's get some pylons happening. 2 and 3. Let's connect them up. Grab these 2, head up. Up, up, and up. And we'll slap them into the right angle, even though the bottom one isn't completely aligned. So we're going to get that in line. So everything kind of overlaps on each other, and we have a nice clean read. And on that right angle right down into there, and that's fine. I mean, it looks a little redundant to have things so close to each other, but it does create the right angle, and it does help. Otherwise, it gotta go straight across. Yeah. And that's done. Let's check out the names here. They should be in there. I guess we could look at the panel. Do a little bit of sorting on the panel here. And just grabbing type, we'll put type on top. Very top, poles. Not sure where. I don't know, I want gain in the middle. Width. Why do I have 2 widths? Okay, so this is gain, not width. Panel edit. Okay, so I did say I want gain in the middle. Frequency on the bottom. Poles on the top, I guess. like so. Everything is quite large. This is quite a large EQ layout. However, I do like it's touchscreen accessible right now. When things start to get too small, it becomes annoying. I mean, you can have controls the size of the mouse cursor. Any smaller than that, and you're kind of asking for trouble. However, this is just the right size if you had a touch screen to be like a finger touch. Okay, so type poles gain with the frequency, maybe width underneath frequency. That feels about right. Poles, low, 4 poles. Our starting default type will be, well, if we have 1,000, we'll go default type band shelf, just so it's not affecting the signal once it's first opened. I mean, this can be updated and changed later. All right, so that's complete. Let's continue. Let's finish off the circuit before we do any, how would you say, life improvements. So even with the outputs, I do like to have a output pylon or anchor rather, because it's just one. And I like to do this for everyone. It isn't very space efficient, however, it does make things a little easier to manipulate in the long run. Just having that extra pylon / anchor at the end. I only need 3 more. So last one. Actually, in fact, it's already too late, I think. Yeah, it's already too late. I'll just do it later. Because I'm thinking about the impulse system. I like to have the impulse response representing the curve of the EQ. It's not 100% perfect, like it doesn't show exactly what's happening, but it gives a decent idea, and it's nice to have some visual feedback. Alright, so we'll grab an IO mod, and this is the left out. I know there's probably going to be more later. This is just one band, as I said. The outline here is to show off the anchor and pylon system. I don't know why I always say anchor first. Maybe because it's A and then P. But pylons are actually before the anchors in application. And then we take this guy and we just kind of line it up with the right angle here. There it disappears. It looks like this guy's off a bit. I know it seems like I'm being a bit anal, but once everything's said and done, it's so great to have everything organized and in order. Just looking at things. See, as it goes to, I'm going to have to relabel all these R, right? Or impulse. Another R. Small price to pay, though, for how much that's already done. So that's it. I kind of almost can't believe that that's it. So let's get that happening in the way of the right channel and then the impulse channel. So actually I'm going to rearrange these so that they, I say a lot, I'm going to stop saying so that they are in the same order as they are on the panel. So top is shelf. This is right. Let's grab some brings down here. What do we look like on the top layer here? So we do have left and right, and we can get rid of this SC EQ. This was me experimenting with the SV filter, trying to get a EQ system happening. However, it was going poorly, to say the least. Okay, so R is down here, and frequency, width, gain is above that. type is on top. Is there one more thing underneath type? Width, underneath, gain. Let's see. Panel edit, type, poles. Type poles, gain, width. Okay, so where's poles? Here it is. All right. And we'll get those lining up with the right angle. So neat. Worry about that later. In fact, maybe we should worry about that now. Yeah, we'll get an anchor system happening for that, for the impulse system, so I don't have to copy and paste everything. Well, because there won't be two controls for left and right. This isn't a left and right EQ system. Mid and side, left and right. It's a stereo EQ, right? So we don't need to worry about that. I'll worry about that later. It's time to just copy and paste, I suppose. Let's get these guys out of the way. See if we manage to keep our right angle. And then copy and paste. We cannot copy an IO mod, so leave it at that. And I guess if I had these all webbed into one anchor, I wouldn't have to connect them all back to the IO mod. So perhaps I will web these. And then I don't have to rename them later. So let's get rid of all this except for one. And then we'll web it. And then they're all connected, yes. Okay, and then we're gonna right angle that to hide them. And we have an IO mod. Okay. Looking good. Can I get smaller? There. So we want to grab it about there. Left, right, yes. Okay, copy. Head down here. We're just going to drop that right there somewhere randomly. Get it lined up. Okay, and then we want right to come through. And I do believe that has a secondary. Oh no. It has a direct switch. So I'm just going to copy one of these guys. Drop that here. I'm going to rename that right. It might actually be easier. Whatever. I'm already here. The fastest, easiest is when that's already ready. First idea is usually the best because it's the fastest. However, consideration for a second idea is always just as good. But in this case, the first idea was the fastest. And then we'll send that through here. Do I have two? I have two, right? Okay, so we'll just delete this. Shouldn't harm anything. Like I'm not going to lose, any of these guys. So we'll send that through. So, and then, what does this look like up here? It's kind of underneath everything, eh? There's a gap there. I'm not sure why there's a gap there. This can go in the garbage now that it's not holding anything in place. It's just taking up space. Drop this down one, bring this over, underneath. So now our R is in. However, all of our pylons are empty. So we can bring our initial pylons in. Let's grab them and bring them up. And we'll do some connections. This definitely helps where everything's named. So, poles, why is pole weight on there? Oh, because it's a different order than, yeah, whatever. Gain, frequency, and width. right, so everything is wired in. Just gonna bring them back to there. Control the GUI here, find that right angle. And of course they're not in line. How come they're not in line? Are they in line? Yeah, they must be in line, right? Okay. And then all I have to do is rename this R. And bring in an IO mod. This is R out. Everything's wired in. Is type wired in? It's wired in. R is wired in. Look at how easy trace is. Trace is so easy now. Okay. So now we look at the impulse system. In order to do that, I want to do another copy paste here, so I'm going to make some more room. Yeah, I could be building horizontally. I'm just building vertically. I'm not even sure there's more or less space horizontally or vertically. Looks like there might be more space horizontally. That should be enough room. Then I need to zoom out so I can grab this again. We cannot copy a IO mod, so I'm just going to deselect that. Right click, copy. Oh, I must have another IO mod somewhere. What? Maybe it still thinks I have this one selected. So I'm just going to click empty space, zoom out again, and this time avoid the IO mod. I must have selected this one maybe. Okay, so now I can right click and copy, and then we're going to head down here, and we're just going to toss it. Hopefully that fits. I'm going to toss it there, and barely fits. Okay, so now we want to rename this R into impulse. And then out impulse. Again with the R, impulse. Impulse. And we don't have an IO mod here. Instead, we are sending the impulse through. So the way the impulse system works. Actually, before we talk about the impulse system, we're going to do some wiring here, because we have to get our controls wired in. So similar to the left and right, we now have a third value here, the impulse. So the impulse will reflect everything happening to the other channels. So the left and right are represented here. If we were to say have a independent left and right control, we would have to reflect that in how the signal flows through the impulse. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. It's just more work. So because the left and right channels are the same, the impulse can just travel the same path, exactly, reflecting everything that's happening to these other two. So let's talk about the impulse now. So the way I build the impulse, looks like everything has to shift forward a bit. For once. I'm going to get a right angle there. And I'm just going to make sure all my mouse downs are connected, but I want to explain this first. So the impulse system is not unlike the standard oscillator. And it's important to use the oscillator algorithm to drive the impulse, otherwise the impulse won't sleep, which is important for efficiency, system efficiency. Now, in order to build an impulse system, I usually just start with the synths, and then we go minimal, and we toss that down, and we're just going to delete all the extra stuff here. We're going to head into this container, and we see how we have the standard oscillator algorithm. We're going to delete the left and right output, and we're just going to have output, and I usually just rename this impulse. And then from there, what we want to do is we want to break the connection between the VCA and the oscillator. And we're going to go into diagnostics, and we're going to pull out impulse, and we're going to stick that in between the oscillator and the VCA. Additionally, I also like to change the response curve to linear and head into the ADASR and take the attack into -10, the decay into -10, the sustain into 10, +10, and the release into -10. And that makes a really stiff sort of envelope. So the only thing that's coming through is the impulse when it's activated. And the reason I brought in this prefab or whatever was because it has its pitch set already, and it already had its ADSR set. However, I wanted to highlight that. And as for the oscillator, it has to be a pulse. I prefer a pulse, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be 0 or 5. I'm just going to leave it at 5. It works where it is. And so I'm just going to delete the one I made. So it's the exact same thing, except for it's changed to the pulse and the 5. So we're going to delete this one, as everything else was same here. We're going to head out, and now we have our trigger to gate, our trigger to MIDI, rather. And in here is a calculation of pitch. So this pitch is 6 frames per second. I guess it's 6 impulses per second. I mean, we could set it up to 60. However, it is going to be driving a GUI 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. It's fine at 6. 6 is fine. It's responsive enough to, catch movements and stuff, I find. You can drive it faster, but it's not really a point. The patch memory bool is important. When you are creating your controls, make sure, if you're going to be using the impulse system, that you have your vector knob or whatever mouse down. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with everything. I mean, I'm not even sure what that would do. I did bug the developer of SynthEdit to make it so when you clicked away from something, say you change this and then you clicked away, it would, should be a list. Not sure why that's not a list. It would update and mouse down. However, I'm not sure what he did. He didn't do what I asked him to do, and I think it updates when you mouse down like that. So that's mouse down instead of clicking away, but it is what it is. I mean, perhaps I can develop one text entry or list entry that does reflect that, but I'm not really too keen on it. If you want to see your impulse response update, you do have to use the knob. Perhaps I will connect the mouse downs now just to see, and this has to be a list. So I'm going to change this out. So that's not supposed to be a text entry, that's supposed to be a list entry. Now I gotta kind of update things here on choice and item lists. We're gonna delete this list of text. It must just be from when I was making the float or the standard knobs. I didn't consider having to use the list entry. And then we're gonna hop into the panel. Of course, we got all these guys. Shrink it down. It's gonna clip it. Gonna just make sure my lowercase is at least visible. So I want band shelf again. And then I'm just gonna copy this. We're gonna drag that into the other one, which is poles. Maybe that's why, because poles can be on, any number. I don't think it'll. I guess not. But yeah, no, that's not part of it. It should be a list, or it will be a list. It has to be a list. And that should already be sized. Right. Okay. Not sure why it's disconnected. Is it disconnected? No, it's not. I don't know what happened there. Weirdness. Mouse down. So yeah, I just wanted to show that the mouse down should be connected. Let's connect the other ones and see what happens. There is no mouse down for list. Interesting. So if we click polls, that does nothing. It's going to update? No, it's fine the way it is then. Don't need to be adding anything we don't really need. However, these ones have most of them, right? So let's see what these do. Let's see what happens when the readouts are most down. If it will update on the way in or on the way out. I'm pretty sure the developer made it so they develop on the way in, or they update on the way in. And let's get all the mouse downs connected to the value here. And this is of course like a toggle, so whenever there's a mouse down, it updates here and turns the boolean on, which in turn goes to gate and opens up the impulse and shoots the impulse out to update the impulse response. And I'll just bring that in now to demonstrate the impulse response and how it works. However, I still need to do connect some more mouse downs here. So impulse response, and this is a graph. And we got to go impulse in. And perhaps we'll add some anchors first. So it'd be easier just to, rather faster to use an old one, or a one that's already made. Impulse. Oops. And then we want this to go to impulse in. Do we want more pylons? Let's give it another pylon anyway. Oh, let's give it a pylon. Why isn't it? Why is it gain? Probably what was on the clipboard, right? So we're going to copy the one that's already printed, impulse, and we're going to give it an extra 2. It's redundant, but it'll help out later. So impulse in. Now signal in. Signal in is where the impulse travels through. So this is probably why it was important. I made 2 more anchors. So we're going to paste 2 more. I'm going to paste a pylon and an anchor. And then these guys, we're going to reel this in a bit here. These guys want to line this up. This guy is going to be the signal that travels through. It actually looks like there was already one there. So a little bit of a, I wouldn't say shortcut, but of a efficiency consideration here is I'm going to connect impulse to impulse, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to save before I do it. Should always save. Should have been saving all along. There's a chance I could have hit a snag and everything could have just come tumbling down on me, and that would have been embarrassing. Anyway, right click, more, uncontainerize, or delete retain wires. Either will delete this module and leave it connected, because I didn't really need an anchor there. Or a pylon, anchor, whatever. Maybe I did? Don't know. So now the impulse is traveling through the same signal that the left and right signal are traveling through, and has all the same selections, and this don't need this. And then it pops out of the impulse other end. So this is now signal in. And I'm going to build another anchor here, signal in. So impulse is the original impulse signal. We need that. That's like a dry impulse signal. And then the signal in is the wet signal, how it's being affected. And that'll show us what the EQ is doing. So before I can get to that, I need to make sure all my mouse downs are connected here. It looks like I missed one. And that goes to value. And that's a DSP signal. So that's coming out of the bottom there into trigger to MIDI. Then into the impulse system, which again is just a MIDI to CV. Going into here is a pulse and then pulse width. It has to have some pulse width and then an ADSR, a really tight ADSR with a linear response curve, and impulse is sitting in the middle here. And that's coming out. This is containerized because it should be any sort of a MIDI CV should have its own container. How I've learned the hard way many times. Let's get a right angle happening here. And a right angle happening there if I can. And more right angles. And it looks like everything has to come forward a bit. This should actually be sitting on the bottom. Oops, but not that. Okay, so I'll bring it forward just a touch. Got all our right angles happening. Of course, we got all these loose pylons hanging out, but I'll get them into right angles momentarily once I decide where I want things to be sitting. Everything's wired. So now I guess we can test the impulse system as it's wired and running. I'm going to save first, and then we're going to boot up the system here. And we're going to go right click panel edit, and we have our impulse system sitting here. Let's give it some space, and we're going to plop it into the corner. Of course it's not snapping the grid, so I'm just going to grab it by the corner and get it into the grid. And we'll bring it up, get it a little taller. There isn't much settings for it. There is a impulse response, frequency response. So I'll show that off in a second. We'll get it a bit wider as my chat box is sitting on top of it. Move it over a little bit here, so it's on screen, on stream, on stream, on screen, on stream, on stream, on screen. And then yeah, and once we move these controls, they are going to send in a mouse down bool to the patch memory bool, and that's going to trigger the impulse, and it's going to travel through all the stuff, and we'll get something that looks like this, hopefully. And there's nothing there, right? Because there's no gain. So let's give it a gain, and that's not doing anything. You know, why isn't that doing anything? Doesn't have its mouse down. It has its mouse down. Is it not connected somewhere? It's like too many mouse downs. Is it not connected here? So this is debugging, troubleshooting. Impulse in, that's straight dry impulse. Impulse out, it's webbed. The gain is for those three. The gain in, it's wired properly. Interesting. Can we get it to do anything? I don't know why gain's not working here. It's just not responding. Maybe if I, move gain and then move something else? No? It's all busted. Making me look bad here. Maybe it has to be impulse. I don't think it's impulse response though. Because that just does that weird thing. I don't even know what that is. That's demonstrating the impulse. It's showing what the impulse is. I must have missed something somewhere. Let's set this back to frequency response, and then we'll check the low shelf. The passes, rather. No, nothing's responding. So there must be something not going here. Are they not connected internally? Did I miss something here? Let us try a LED. So who controls LED 2? Maybe because there's no output. A lot of times SynthEdit won't run downstream things when there's no output, but let's check the impulse. The impulse isn't running. Let's see that as a scope. Anything coming out of there? Yeah, it shows impulse there, a little tiny. You can barely see it, it's there. Maybe we'll change that oscillator response to 0. Probably won't affect much. You can still see it. Weird. It should be loud enough. 10 going through, trigger gates, channel, doesn't matter, it's all channel. Let's try disconnecting stuff. And we'll go, say, I'll throw on just an SV filter real quick, I guess. And we'll bring in this signal, Send it through. We'll see if that does anything. Yeah. Not sure why it's responding though. It shouldn't be responding. Or it shouldn't be. What's going on? It's being weird. It's gone now. I mean, my calculation was fine. See, it worked for a second. Maybe I should just build it, right? Okay, so what's next here? Let's get rid of this, right? It's funny how it was responding a little bit. It's kind of weird. Oh, because it's at the end of these, yeah. That's why, because that gainer was, passing through here. Let's try high pass. No, it's not responding now. No, it responded. It responds once in a while. It's like on lunch break or something. Signal in, so that should all be working. Everything appears to be working fine. It's just being annoying. Let's rev it up. I'm gonna copy this and we're gonna rev it. If I rev it too fast, it has like this really ugly response. We're just gonna store that value there. Does it give me a full value? No, it doesn't. I'm gonna put that on clipboard then. And then let's do that, and we're gonna rev it. So let's say 2-pitch. Yeah, look at that. It's too fast for it. It doesn't want to work. It only wants to work once. But why though? Weirdness. Well, it's all wired in. I could give it a test run in application. I'm going to switch that value back to the 6 frames per second or 6 pulses per second, I suppose. None of that other stuff really matters. Everything was nice and clean. Let's get the input outputs running. I'm going to turn it off. And we'll put the background back. We'll get these defaults in place here. Width 250. Okay, 0, 4, and I want that shelf. So I'm going to X that, and there it is. I'm going to save. And we'll get that exported. Export as VST3. All this other stuff, no big deal. Okay. Save file first. Sure. Oh, I forgot to do the background. Let's get back in here. Not sure why I did that. I don't really need to be in the structure view to get to the panel. Okay, so let's toss that down there. Maybe we'll give it a bit of a fade. Yeah, looks better. This thing's seeing a lot of banding, but that's just 1.4. I didn't even look to see if 1.5 has better banding. Save again. File, export VST. Okay. I'm going to open FL Studio. And then I'm going to have to tell you a story whilst it loads. I just want to check my microphone. Microphone good. And I'm going to head over here and I'll right click. Right click folder. Refresh plugin list. And this is going to take a couple years. Because it's going to dig through all of my... Oh, it's done? Oh, wow. I really did clean up my VST selection. So I'm going to open up one of my testing guys. This is guitar. My testing projects. I've got a span analyzer here. It's coming in with a noise. So I'm actually going to disable that. I'll send the noise through channel 1. And then we'll drop the EQ on 1 here. Okay, so that shouldn't be doing anything. Is it responding? Yeah, it does respond now. I don't know why it wasn't responding. Maybe it won't respond anymore. No, it sounds fine. Oh, see, I had an overload there. That's not good. Yeah. Overload. Those suck. So look, it's totally jammed the system. Bugger. Well, let's reload the EQ. And that should reset it. We have it on band shelf. And we'll just bring in the noise. You can see there, that's white noise. And then we'll EQ. And it's actually updating. Oh, unfortunately, it doesn't hold the update, and it looks like polls isn't working. We can do, and we can see it's still a bit of crap happening. I don't think it's doing anything. Maybe it's not connected. Frequency. So we're moving up and down. Width, widen it out. I'll make it up to 1,000. Or down to, what, 10? Of course, you can't see that. You'll probably see it in the lower frequencies at like 250. A notch of 10. Sort of. Barely. Maybe in like around 50. Yeah, it looks quite a bit bigger down there. So it's 10 hertz from 50 to 60. And we can boost it 30. You know, add about a little bit of bottom end. Frequency 80. So in the E note, it's a pure E note. Well, a noise-based E note. I can turn on the sound. It doesn't want to. No, because I blew it earlier. That's too bad. The Butterworth system is still kind of crappy because it does stuff like that. It's an overload. And the whole EQ is overloaded. That's so disappointing. Perhaps there's a way to work around it. High shelf. I gotta reload it because it's been overloaded. Okay, so let's go high shelf. And from 1,000 and up, and we'll boost. Okay, now can we get a curve here with the poles? Yes, nice smooth curve, or a really tight curve. There's an overload. Is it totally toast now? Yeah, it's totally toast. Wow. Still got problems, huh? That sucks. Oh well. Well, not oh well. I'll figure out something. But I do believe that draws to the end of demonstrating pylons and anchors. There are a couple things that can be added here. However, they are more for intermediate and advanced stuff. I'll just have to look at them some other time. First and foremost, I want to see how I can avoid, overloading the system. I will throw this in the Patreon. It'll be available to download. I believe it'll let me do that. If it doesn't, then it won't be there. The video should demonstrate the how great things look when you use the pylon and anchor system. So with that, I do believe I'll call it there. Thanks for watching, and until next time.